that you have to get your hands dirty. You can't do a startup with a corporate mindset.
When people tell me that I can't do something, I will do whatever it takes to prove them wrong.
लाइफ में ना दो तरह से कॉम्पनसेट होते हो आप. वन इज योर अर्निंग एंड वन इज योर लर्निंग.
Fundamental each has always been खुद करो.
I'm your host, Akshay Datt, and you're listening to Spotlight, a podcast in which I speak to disruptive startup founders.
My name is Dhruv Bhasin. I'm one of the two co-founders of Arata.
I'm Dhruv Madhok, the other co-founder of Arata.
I'm sure that many of you aspire to be sustainable and eco-friendly, but lack easy and convenient ways to do it. In the West, there is a very large market of personal care products made sustainably, with companies like Body Shop leading the pack. In India, this is a virgin market, and one of the fastest growing players in this space is Arata, which is a Japanese word that means fresh. Arata offers a range of personal care products ranging from hair products to creams which are completely plant-based and sustainably packed. And its two founders, Dhruv Madhok and Dhruv Bhasin, are on a mission to build India's answer to Body Shop. Here they tell Akshay Datt about how they built Arata.
So, welcome to the show, Dhruv, or from now on, I'll call you by your surnames.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So, how did you guys meet? Are you like childhood buddies, or like what's the deal?
Yeah, now that we're like in our almost mid-30s, the fact that we met when we were in our teens, I guess. Maybe like what were we? Maybe 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah,
Bhasin?
somewhere around there.
Yeah. So I think that would make us technically childhood buddies. So we've known each other, I think about 15 odd years now.
So tell me about how you met.
So I have a good friend who I went to school with, and I used to enjoy giving him a hard time on Facebook whenever he'd put a status update trying to act cool. We were all in university back then, and so I think
You guys are from Delhi?
yeah, I'm from Delhi. I did my schooling in St. Columbus, and Basim, you were in Sanskriti, right?
Yes, I was in Sanskriti. I did my schooling in Delhi as well, and so essentially, he was a common friend, the friend who went to school with Madhok and went to university with me. So
Which university? Like where did
I was at Lancaster University in the UK.
Yeah, so my school friend went to university with Basim. And while he was at university, while both of them were at the same university, I kept in touch with my friend through Facebook because that was what the thing to do was back then, right? This is 2006, 2007. And I remember he used to, put these really funny, cool status updates on his Facebook, pretending to have really like a really great time. And, how he used to, be the man of the hour, and he used to act really cool. And I used to leave no opportunity to to poke fun at him. And I noticed that there was somebody else also doing exactly the same thing, and also happened to share the same first name as me. So I would leave a mean comment, and then I would notice that Basim would also leave a funny mean comment, and I was like, okay, who is this guy who is picking on our mutual friend and has a great sense of humor and shares the same name as me? And I think we became Facebook friends back then, and then we met through our mutual friends.
And just to add here, just for context, so the listeners don't think that we are just massive bullies and our friendship was based on the foundation of dragging someone. For context, the common friend is a very, very good friend of ours, and that's the reason why we took the liberty of, messing around with him, which he takes the liberty of as well.
Yes.
Okay. So I would like each of you to tell me about the other one, in terms of what kind of family is he from? What did he want to be as a kid? And so just like that, kind of setting a origin story kind of a context for the other one.
Okay, so Madhok, Yeah, you can start by telling Akshay about how handsome and smart and humorous and wonderful I am. Yeah, you can start.
Yeah. No, I think so. Bhasin is a Delhi guy. He's what you would consider your typical yaro ka yaar, dosto ka dost, an absolute legendary friend and absolutely legendary business partner. So sometimes I joke and I think that for me personally, Bhasin is more than a brother and less than a wife. Like he's just such an incredible support system. And I've known him since since I think when we were 19, 20, always, super funny, fun loving, always willing to extend a helping hand. And I could tell that he was quite disciplined and ambitious, which I found quite refreshing and new in Delhi, coming from, because I grew up in a professional household, and I had a certain perception of people who came from business families, and that is that they were too comfortable, and that that their fathers and grandfathers and mothers and grandmothers had done all the hard work and heavy lifting, and their third generation or second generation is essentially is reaping the benefits without really putting in the due effort. And I remember this one time that we went to a party back when we were like again around 2021, and I recollect we left the party at about 2:30 or 3, maybe 4 in the morning, and I was in touch with Bhasin, and I found out that he was getting up at about 7 or 7:30 in the morning to get ready, get dressed, and go to the office. And I was like, why do you have to do that? Isn't your dad already in the office, and isn't he running the show? And he was like, no, dude, my dad has told me categorically that I have to be dressed like a professional, I have to act like a professional, and I have to be there early in the morning before 9 a.m. at my desk. So it was really,
What did your dad do, Basim?
So I'm essentially third generation in a business family. My father, he's actually done a bit of bit of everything. He did garment exports. Then from garment exports, he moved into finance. From finance, he moved into real estate. And then he's kind of just been running the real estate kind of buying, selling, maintenance kind of business for since for the last 17, 18 years.
Delhi based only, like his business.
All Delhi based. Yes, all predominantly Delhi based. Yeah.
And tell me about Madhok.
So yeah, first of all, Madhok, thank you for all those kind words. I wish I would actually hear them, on a regular basis instead of only on a podcast. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I meant it.
But no, I'm super humbled, and I can guarantee you I'm blushing a little bit as well, for all the kind words. But yeah, Madhok's origin story would be that he's born and raised in Delhi. He went to an all-boys school. From there, he went to college in the US, came back to India, and not even by design. Mm-hmm. Initially, he wanted to stay on in the US, but visa issues, I think, for all Indian students abroad. Came back to India, and then jumped right into the the job scene. Has always been very driven. Has always been very ambitious, and the amazing part is that he is from a professional background. He started his career as in professional roles, but not for 1 second was he mentally, I would say, an employee. At no point in his life he was always thinking about, how am I going to start my own business? How am I going to run my own business? How am I going to own the world? So from day one, his mentality has probably been more of a businessman than maybe even me from day one. And that can clearly be seen by his very, very colorful background of the rich experience he's had from, which I'm sure we'll get into later, about how he started a snacks company, and then a food delivery service app, and and then eventually how he jumped into Arata and brought all that a rich knowledge with him. So again, super driven, super focused, eye on the ball, And I think, like he said, more of a friend and less than a wife, just less than a wife is the best way to explain our relationship. I think there's no doubt that being partners and co-founders in a company is not easy. It's literally an evolving relationship, and I think we both have been very, very lucky that we've kind of kept ego out of the dynamic, and that's why we've been able to very, very smoothly work through all issues, all problems, very, very successfully. So,
Thank you, Bhasin. Yeah, excellent idea, Akshay, to introduce each other. Yeah.
Okay. So you said your father was in a job, right? Like you said, you come from a
Correct.
family of professionals. So what was he doing, and why didn't you want to follow his path of being in a job? Like, what made you more inclined to business?
So actually, I did, I did want to do what he was doing. So my dad also had, studied abroad. He worked in, banking and finance abroad, and he came back to India. I think this was in the 80s, early 80s, where you could, either work with the government, or the only really comfortable, jobs in the private sector were in travel and hospitality. And so he jumped in and he became a hotelier, and then he worked, with the Oberoi Group, the Taj Hotels, and then eventually worked for a luxury travel company, and then became the managing director for the South Asia PAC region. So I've really seen him climb up the ranks, and really work hard and enjoy a lot of the perks of of being in the industry, traveling, having exposure to good food and good drinks and good hospitality, and seeing the world and meeting people, and developing a network from all across the globe. But it's like I always had this bug that I knew from very early on that for me to essentially continue to sustain the quality of life that my family has given me, it would take me a very, very long time to do it all by myself professionally. It would take me, just like it took my dad, a good 20, 25 years of day in and day out, just working really hard nonstop to try and achieve that level of success and comfort, and those perks and benefits that I was accustomed to. But I knew I couldn't, typically do it in the corporate world. I worked in the corporate sector for maybe.
I think your first job was with KPMG, where you
That is
spent
correct.
about
That's correct.
2.5 years. So, like, you didn't find that very satisfying, like KPMG?
I found it very satisfying in that I learned a lot. I met some great minds, and a lot of the experiences that I had back then, of course, continue to help me today. Something as simple as writing professional emails and making PPTs and doing research and doing due diligence and everything. But the compensations in our country are just so low that I like, for example, I was making about $50,000 a year in the US when I got my first job. Okay, now that's not a lot of money, but it's more than enough to ensure that you have a decent car, a decent apartment. You can have a good gym membership. You can have a good lifestyle. You can have access to good, healthy food, and indulge, on the weekends in things that you enjoy, and maybe, pamper yourself with a few, shopping items, every quarter. So when I came back to India, my salary was about 35 or 40,000 rupees. Now that really made me realize that if I have to move out of my house, get my own apartment, start my own, building my own asset base, and start, providing for myself. And, at that time I was dating a girl who then is now my wife and mother of 2 kids.
Wow.
So I knew that there was a lot, I had to fast pace and accelerate, the wealth creation. And I realized that I would only be able to do that by the means of entrepreneurship. But that's one aspect. The other aspect is I was always very keen on creating something, either a software or a product or a combination of both. So like there was this bug inside me to do something, and I think that's essentially what led to, those 2 factors drove me to entrepreneurship.
So this first venture you did of Snackit, what was the thought process? Like, how did you narrow down on, like, how did you decide this is the product? this is how I will go to market,
Sure. So, as a ritual, I would take my mom for a movie every Sunday. And my mom is as pampered as any mother can be. So the moment we would sit down in the movie theater, I would get my requests. Bache, go get popcorn, go get cappuccino, go get samosa, go get hot chocolate, go get me one more packet of sugar. Okay, and I would just happily oblige, and each time I'd be like kicking myself and thinking that, why am I doing this? Because every time I'd go out and stand in the line, during the interval, there was a huge line. My bladder was bursting. I had to pee, and I had to get food for my mom, and I was going to risk, missing scenes of my movie. So I'm like, this is becoming very problematic. And I thought about, Grubhub and Seamless. When I was in the US, I'd heard of these food ordering websites and food ordering apps that a lot of professionals would use. So they would go to the website during their lunch hour and then order food, and it would be delivered to their doorstep. And I said, why don't we do exactly that in the cinema? And I remember going to the TIE, the Indus Entrepreneur Conference, and I just snuck into the investor room. And I walked up to Ajay Bijli and I asked him, I said, if we made an app like this, would you use it? He's like, I actually would. And then I went to his assistant, who looks after PR and communications, and I said, look, I'd love to get a meeting with Mr. Bijli. Please give me his email ID. Please give me his phone number. And she said, okay, fine, calm down, kid, I'll set it up for you. So I emailed her, incessantly. I texted her, I did everything I could. And lo and behold, I got a meeting with the CIO, or the Chief Information Officer of PVR. And I pitched this idea to her and I said, look, I'm going to make an app. It'll help your customers order food to their seat. I'm not going to charge you anything. If they order something from my app, you give me a commission. That's it. And that's how we got started with it. And then I reached out to another one of our mutual friends who had a mobile development company at that time. He gave me a lot of guidance, and then he eventually became my co-founder. And that's kind of how we got started.
And was it only PVR, or you were working with other cinema
We
chains
worked
also?
with PVR, DT, Movie Time. I'm forgetting a bunch. We had a presence in over 60 outlets across the country, from NCR to Dehradun, in Punjab, because it was very simple, right? All we'd have to do is have a mobile app, have an ordering software like a kitchen display system, and then we would just sit in our apartment in Noida at my friend's home in Noida, and just be watching the orders coming in and be like, okay, fine, now we're making 10% on this for doing nothing, because the orders coming in is being fulfilled by the cinema, and we're getting a commission, and we were like, how cool is this?
Were you integrated with their ordering system, or they had a separate?
Then we realized. So first, I think that the product gets more sophisticated as you see more product market fit and more utility. So initially, I thought that we just have a mobile app that customers would install in the front end, and then I'd just give a simple tablet. So we would procure these low cost tablets from HP, and I think at that time we had Intex and Lava and Carbon, and then we just install the backend on that, and then place it at the popcorn counter. And then train the staff, and that was it. And then once we started seeing enough success with that, we did a deeper integration. At that time, I think PVR was using PosiFlex, and that's where we learned about APIs and integrating, a product. And then it was very cool because an order would come in, it would show up on the, the display system that we installed, as well as help them, punch out the transaction on their point of sale.
And payment gateway or a cash payment? Like, how would people pay?
So it was both. Initially, it was only prepaid, and then we introduced cash on delivery as well. And I remember at that time, I think we were using Citrus, which was quite popular back in 2014.
So at your peak, what kind of orders, like daily orders revenue, were you getting? Like,
I remember we would, I think in our peak month, we did about 11 lakh rupees in sales. But the average order value wasn't very high. I think it was like $200. So we were looking at maybe 5,000 or 6,000 orders a month. So about 20, 30 orders. 200 orders a day.
Okay. So, why did you sell it off? I believe PVR acquired it from you, right?
So it was more like an acqui-hire. PVR basically realized that there's a lot of potential in the product. And they also realized that they no longer need Snackit to be doing this. They can just do this themselves. And also they realized that they were giving me far too much visibility for free. So they said that we're promoting, because I convinced the marketing team to show a slide before every movie starts, and during the interval saying,
Order from Snackit, yeah.
yeah. Your the line was your favorite treat delivered to your seat, and there was a Snackit app logo, um, and uh, and that same inventory was being sold for lakhs of rupees to multiple other brands, right? To all the big brands that advertise at PVR. And so there was a conflict. The marketing, their sales and marketing team was telling their tech team that why are you promoting this app? They haven't paid us a penny. And their tech team was, and their food and beverage team was fighting with their marketing team, saying that because we're getting free business, or increased business. But eventually, it was like they gave me the ultimatum that either you advertise with us, or we're going to have to take your product out. And then I really thought about it, and I was newly married, and I was very stressed, because I was like, okay, fine, what am I going to do? They're my biggest clients. And then I wrote an email to the CEO saying, we've had a great run. I think you can, if we were to just plug in the same product into your app, we have like some 50,000 downloads or 40,000 downloads. You have some 50 lakh installs. Think about the volume of food and beverage that we can sell if you were to just integrate the two products. And he immediately called me and said, who gave you this idea? I said, well, the School of Hard Knocks and my desperation gave me this idea. So he said, why don't you come and meet me? So then I went and met with him, and he said, look, we're looking for somebody who's going to drive our digital business. Why don't you just join us? Bring whoever you want from the team. Bring your technology. We'll see if we can monetize it. Otherwise, you build out a separate product for us. And so that's kind of like, I ended up joining. And he made an offer to both me and my co-founder to join them. I accepted, but my co-founder at that point declined. And then I joined them as a consultant for like a little over a year.
Okay. So during this while, Bhasin, what were you up to?
So I had actually gone out for my master's. I had gone to the University of Surrey in the UK for my master's 2013-14.
So after Lancaster, what did you do? Like you passed out from Lancaster in 09.
Right. So I graduated from Lancaster, and at that point they were by default they were offering something called a work and search work permit for anyone who had graduated from a affiliated UK university. So
I think it was a 1 year period only. You know? My brothers also studied there.
At that time it was 2 years. Yeah. So I got that, and getting a job, was proving to be difficult. But I managed to get a job at a trading company just south of London, which was essentially it was supplying oil and gas parts for the oil and gas industry. So parts from EU and UK made to the Middle East. So it was essentially my first ever job. It was a 9 to 5. It was a sales position. It was nothing fancy. But what it really taught me was what it means to do a 9 to 5. In a proper structured office setting, and that too in a country which is not India, where I'm not saying that either is good or bad, but just different. It's a different working system. It's a different working culture. And I worked there for 1 year. It was really interesting to be on the sales side, to be able to secure purchase orders from the Middle East, trying to market the products that we were offering, which we had special deals on. Learned some technical information as well regarding the industry and what they were looking for, what they weren't looking for. And I was there for 1 year. It was like an SME kind of a setup. They were doing their business was actually doing fantastically well. But after 1 year, I decided they really wanted me to stay, but I knew that wasn't something I wanted to do forever. And I moved on from there, and I moved to London. for my second year, and I was then helping a consultancy, which was helping Indian companies set up shop in the UK and EU. So it was essentially all the compliance and any other technical aspects of setting up in the UK and EU, and I was assisting the senior management with helping to set that up. So again, it was very early days for me. I think I was just 21. So again, starting right from the bottom. And after that, then I came back to India. I was in India from.
That's a great point.
So that was 2011 that I came back. I think around 2011, 2012. I was in India for a couple of years. That was the point at which I was just trying to get a handle on what my, what business my father was doing. What value could I add? Was there any value I could add? And then I quickly kind of realized that, it wasn't something where I could add too much value immediately. It was more kind of a management, managing kind of a position, more to just kind of maintain the status quo and, kind of see that, everything is on track and not much value addition that I could see. So I knew that was definitely not something I wanted to do, sit on a desk, sign checks, sign some, vouchers and, wait for payments to come in. That's not how I wanted to spend my life or kind of abuse the privilege and, that I had gotten by having the opportunity to study and work abroad. So, so I just kind of like went through the ropes, and this was now the first time I was in India working, in a family setup. So that was again kind of starting from scratch, but in a different context. So I worked, with my father for 2 years, and after that I went. I decided to do my masters. My father's always, was always very insistent to, try and get at least a master's degree. Because he always believed that, look, anything can happen in life, anything can happen in business. If you have a degree, at least you know that the point at which you're going to start from is going to be of a decent standard, if professionally speaking. So, so I went and I did my master's, and I did my MSc in management for a year. Again, it was a fantastic experience. Made friends there, for life. Got an opportunity to further expand my network, and got a fantastic degree from there. Then I came back to India, and then I said that, okay, now I need to really seriously consider what I want to, what I really want to do now for the, at least some kind of trajectory for, a large part of my professional life. And I had a hobby from early on of investing in the public markets. So after a certain looking at doing some research, some preliminary research, looking at what the scope is, I set up a brokerage, a very simple stock brokerage, which was essentially a service. I was a service provider. So
like the old school
service providers, and I could see that there was a lot of new entrants in the market. It was all happening online.
And Zerodha was
right. I'm not even sure if Zerodha was there at that time, or they were probably just in the early days. There was another one I'm forgetting. It was called BSK or something like that. I'm forgetting the name.
Sher Khan was also. That's like a very old one.
Right. So I'm doing it for close to no brokerage. So. But I had a kind of a hypothesis with regards to providing this service and how this service is not, as far as the India context is concerned, it's not redundant, because majority of the people who invest in the public markets, it is not their primary occupation. It's something that they do on the side, either as a hobby or as they want to do as a passive income or wealth management, or just something to do on the side. And very often when they're in their full-time job, they don't have the time to log in and to trade and to watch screens and to make sure they get the best price while buying, because it's a bidding system. It's a marketplace. It's not as simple as whatever you see on the screen, you get it at that price. There are, sometimes thousands, if not millions of buyers and sellers on each share. So I had that hypothesis that, people who are not doing this professionally, they would much rather call a service provider, say that, look, buy this share for me, having the faith that, okay, this professional and this service will buy the shares for me at the best price possible. And if there's any kind of other technicalities involved, they'll be able to do those for me, including compliance, account opening, and everything else. So that was my hypothesis, and that kind of hypothesis got validated as we set up, as we, kind of started slowly growing the business. Started with, friends and family, then got further references, professional references, and the business kind of started growing from there. And it was a pure play, service provider kind of a business model. And I was slowly, beginning to grow the business, getting more and more accounts, getting those accounts to, trade. Not that I was, as a broker, you're not allowed to give any advice and stuff. It's just purely a service.
Why didn't you just keep doing that? Like, why did you wind that up and,
So I actually didn't wind it up. It was something that was kind of running on autopilot. So it even to date right now, I had a team at that time in place. So the team has just continued to, just run that on autopilot with practically no involvement from my side. And that's also because I don't have the time to be involved in any capacity anymore. But I think the reason I switched over and it was at that point, while I was in the process of scaling it up is when Madhok and I met on that one fateful night and the idea of Arata, came to the forefront. I think it was just that I found something that I was much more passionate about, where I found that this is something where I could really enjoy the journey. It would be more for the love of the game than for just purely commercial, any purely commercial aspect or just pure, for money. And it would be something which I could see, would help me self-actualize, would help me, I've read this book called Ikagai, where, it's, what is that one thing that, whether it's a profession or if it's something that really matters to you that can helps you self-actualize.
No, but what is it that you found like you were passionate about? Was it the like beauty products? Was it that or?
So what really, first of all, I was a huge user of hair product, and we'll come to the story of how it all started. But it kind of started from there. The story started from a simple hair gel that my mother used to make at home. But what I think my passion, I think for both of us, is that we're able to sell something that's physical, something that you can hold in your hand, something that can add value to another person's life. And, when we get so much love from, our customers, it's the most amazing feeling in the world. Like even to date, when we get, some kind of overwhelming review or some overwhelming feedback regarding our products, that is what truly makes us happy. Of course, the fact that if we're doing some really solid sales, there's no doubting, that doesn't make us happy either. But I think it was just that we were going to be running the prospect of running a business where we were actually going to be selling a physical product that would help help enhance other people's lives. I think that was what was the real attraction for me.
Okay. So, Madhok, can you tell us about that, from PVR to starting Arata, that journey?
So, that journey was also quite interesting. I had just gotten married, and I was having a small get together at home. And Bhasin and I had been friends for about, I think
this is when you were still in PVR.
This was a few months before PVR. So this is whilst I was doing two things. While I was running Snackit, I also started a snacks business because, like Bhasin had also mentioned, I also started developing a fondness, and I had a realization. My realization was that it's very easy to scale software, but hard to monetize because it's very easy to move atoms. Very easy to move data packets, to scale data packets, but very hard to move atoms. And if we were to, whereas with consumer products, it's, the margins are significantly higher, but harder to scale. So I was running Snackit. I also started a healthy snacks business, which I was selling in, the modern trade. That I ended up winding up. So this was, this was basically 6 months before I joined PVR, and Bhasin had come by, and I had noticed that I was having a small get together at home, and I noticed that Bhasin had used a lot of styling product, like the one that he just mentioned about his mom making. So he'd used a lot of hair gel, and I just joked and I said, listen, aren't you concerned about hair fall or hair whitening? Because if you keep this up, you're going to basically lose all your hair by the time you're in your mid to late 30s. And worst case, it'll all fall off. Best case, it'll turn white if you keep this up. And he said, I'm actually not concerned about hair fall or hair whitening because my mom also had the same concern for me. And she ended up making 100% natural organic hair gel for me to use. My mom takes organic flax seeds, boils them, and makes this homemade hair gel for me to use and keeps it for me in the fridge. That way it lasts long, it doesn't go bad. And I just apply it on my hair before going out. And he's like, I'll send you some. I said, please do, because this is a huge pain point, because the biggest concern that people have with using styling products is that they cause hair fall and hair whitening and are bad for the scalp and are bad for your skin. So if you've figured out a natural alternative to it, I would absolutely love to try it. And he sends me the sample 2 days later. I tried it. It, essentially gave me the same hold, same shine that what I was using back then was a L'Oreal Studio Styling Gel. And it gave me the exact same hold, same shine, perfect cast. There was no flaking, no dandruff, no residue. So I was like, this is such a great product. We must sell this. And I called up Basim, the night after using it, in the morning after, using it at night. And I said, there's got to be more men like you and I out there who are concerned about hair fall and hair whitening, because I just started seeing the first signs myself. I was in my late 20s, and I'd started seeing the first signs of, hair thinning and hair whitening. And I said, we must sell this because there's got to be more people like you and I out there. And he said, absolutely, let's figure it out. And we met the following weekend. It was a Saturday morning in January. We went to Starbucks, and we started doing research on hair gels and figuring out what are the safest hair gels in the market. And we found zero. We found that there are lots of hair gels that promise great hold, great shine, wet look, 6 hours hold, zero gravity, but not one said safe for daily use, non-toxic, chemical-free, plant-based. And we were like, wow, this is a huge opportunity, because hair gels cause hair fall and hair whitening because they have alcohols and fragrances and parabens and DEAs and phthalates and synthetic fragrances and even polymers and plastic derivatives. So we had now figured out a way to make a natural version of it. Of course, it needed some work, but then we also realized that there's actually a significantly larger opportunity. The same ingredients that cause hair fall and hair whitening, the alcohols and fragrances and parabens and DEAs and whatnot, they are not only restricted to use in styling products, we started noticing them across all labels, on shampoos, on toothpastes, on face washes, on lip balms. And we were like, what on earth is happening? Why is everybody victimizing this poor hair gel and then going and using, a toothpaste which has SLS in it, and using a shampoo with, sulfates, and using, deodorants with, heavy metals. And so we realized that there's so much of an opportunity here to make not only a styling brand, but an entire personal care brand, which makes safe, non-toxic, chemical-free, and truly effective personal care products.
But it took you like about 2 years to
go to market.
Yeah. So what happened in those 2 years?
In those 2 years, life continued happening. So I ended up winding up Snack It because we were basically being bullied out, and then I had to join the big guys, and then I was very happy to join the big guys. In the meantime, in parallel, we knew that this wasn't the right time for us to jump into it full time because there was so much significant R&D that needed to be done. We needed to find a cosmetologist who could help us improve the shelf life, improve the fragrance, improve the texture. Then we needed to figure out anything and everything we could about the personal care industry. Were we going to go manufacturing, or were we going to go third party? Were we going to go men's only, or were we going to go unisex? Were we going to go luxury or premium or mass premium or highly affordable? Will we distribute online, or will we do it offline? So there was a series of things that happened, but a lot of interesting things happened in the meantime. We wanted to start validating the idea, so we'd go to Bhasin's farm, and just spend the weekend there, and we would basically take flax seeds in a huge patila, just put it, boil it, uh, extract the flaxseed hair gel, fill it into massive 2-liter Coke bottles, and poke a hole on the top of the Coke bottles. That would basically serve as like an instrument to squeeze out this freshly made hair gel into small tubes. And then we would, make these small bottles, and then fill out this freshly made hair gel and start shipping it out to friends and family, just to see if yes, for feedback, to see if they start liking it. People started getting hooked onto it, and we're actually saying that, what, guys, we feel wrong asking you for this product each time because we're taking it for free. Please let us pay you for it. And that's when we were like, okay, fine, maybe we've got something here. And that's why we went ahead with every single thing that I mentioned, getting the cosmetologist, getting a graphic designer, getting the licenses and compliances, figuring out third-party manufacturing, refining the positioning.
How did you fund all this? Like, did you take on angel investment, or was it like bootstrapped?
So at that time, so basically over a period of, I think, 2 years, we would have invested maybe about 15 lakhs each, over the first 2 years. So and none of the money was going in one shot. It was like we were drip feeding it. It was like 50,000 every month or a lakh of rupees every 2 months, because what that was allowing us to do was to self-finance this. I took, some money from my dad for this, and he's told me that you can pay me back in this lifetime, if you get a successful exit. If you don't, you can still, pay me back in this lifetime, and even if you can't, it's okay. There's, I was lucky enough to, and I remember telling Bhasin that I want you to come with me to pitch to my dad, because I'm realizing that, we can't just put 50,000 every month and scale this up. We may need to put a chunk of, say, 5 or 10 lakh rupees each. And so Bhasin and I actually went and made a formal presentation to my father over a cup of tea in the office, and we explained to him how, what the vision is and what the scale is. And so it was basically bootstrapped, up until late 2018.
Okay. And meanwhile, you also joined from PVR. You like switched jobs and joined, I think, Bird app.
That's correct. So I joined the Bird group, and what I realized while I was at PVR was I was only getting the weekend to work. PVR's office was in Gurgaon, so I would leave, Delhi in the morning at about 9:30 or 10 a.m. and I'd only return home at about 8:30 or 9 p.m. And that was only allowing Basin and me to work on Saturdays and Sundays. So after about a year of that, we realized that we now need to start doing this maybe 2.5 days a week to really start picking up the momentum. So I joined the Bird group and I said, look, I actually want a 3-day work week. You can pay me lesser, but I'll essentially build out a team to make sure that, whatever functions I'm looking after, will be well executed. And I'm extremely grateful to, late Ankur Bhatia for giving me that opportunity. And that was also a fantastic experience. But what that allowed me, so we didn't close on 3-day work week, we closed on a 4-day work week. So Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday at Bird Group. But Wednesdays and Saturdays were really my favorite. And Wednesdays and Saturdays, Bhasin and I would meet religiously, either at his office, his apartment, or my apartment, or the coffee shop. And we would basically make sure that we're putting in 2+ days a week, every week, for the entire year, 2017 to 2018. And then when we realized that the business we've started selling enough hair gels, we were doing almost 5 lakhs a month in sales.
I mean, tell me about your go-to market, and maybe Bhasin can answer this one. Like, if you're selling 5,000 packs a month, then, how did you do your go-to market?
So I'll tell you very honestly, this wasn't some, blueprint that Madhok and I had put together that this is going to be our go-to-market strategy, and, this is how we're going to penetrate the market, and this will be our positioning, and this is how we're going to scale up. I think when you first have that, that first very bright idea that, so many people do have, I think your focus is just on that one idea and the hypothesis. This is now product specific, that this is a product that we can sell and people will like. It was literally quite as simple as that. So but for that idea, we also had to build the infrastructure around it. So that was, and that's why it took us a while to get to market, because we were both, we both had full-time jobs which we were working on. During this time, we only had a chance to meet on, I think, was it, Madhok, you said Wednesdays and Saturdays, if I remember correctly. Wednesdays, Saturdays, Sundays, if required. Even after our, work hours, we would work on it in the evenings and nights. And we had to do all the grunt work, in our spare time of, going from manufacturer to manufacturer, convincing them to, do a very small batch size for us, because we didn't have the money to do larger pack sizes, nor did we know would it sell in its current avatar. Did we have to refine the product or the positioning or anything like that? So, so we had to arrange for packaging, we had to arrange for getting the right manufacturer who would agree to do a few hundred pieces of each item for us, worked with a freelance designer who did the first iteration of the labels for us. All the copy on the labels was written by Madhok and I. We conceptualized, and that's why it's now when we look back, we cringe at that label copy. But it was all part of of growing up, essentially.
One line from that the label copy that I would like to highlight. Now, and this really is
I hope it's nothing that we're using now.
No, we stopped using it. But this was in our absolute desperation to sound like a really large organization, okay, and like a really cool company. We wrote, "This hair gel yields international salon standard looks." We said yields international salon standard looks because we thought that if a customer reads that, we'd be like, "Oh my God, this really must be an incredible organization."
So that was.
But how did you decide the name?
So Madhok actually came up with the name, and we were looking at a bunch of different. So essentially, it was the flaxseed that kind of gave life to this company. So we were trying to look at different kind of languages and iterations of using the word flaxseed, but we couldn't really come up with one. So I think we were both doing research, and Madhok found the word Arata, because our ideology was being non-toxic, plant-based, safe and effective, and sustainable. So we were trying to find something that would give meaning to all of these things in one word. So Madhok found the word Arata, which is a Japanese word for fresh and new, which we later on also found out, which we didn't know, that in Italian it means to sow. So, like, for example, how you sow seeds. So we found that even that was actually very symbolic of what we're trying to do here. Trying to do something new and fresh, and sowing the seeds of something that could bear fruit in the future. And I think that was in the early days our go-to-market strategy. Our go-to-market strategy was essentially just putting the infrastructure together and being able to go live on a website. Build then.
Yeah, and then hand out lots of samples. So we basically put together a list of who we thought were like the coolest people in Delhi,
and Mumbai.
And Mumbai. And we sent, samples of all our products, and we requested each one of them to, put up a story, put up a post on their Instagram, just to help us get the word out. I think that was the first kind of marketing thing that we did. And then we also tied up with a subscription box company. So there was like a beauty subscription box company that would send out basically hundreds of boxes to influencers each month with samples.
It was a subscription box, there was a trend of those for a while, that they put small samples and you subscribe, and you get to try a variety of products, and then you can purchase what you like. So we did that as well. Started out very small because, again, we were bootstrapped. We didn't have any major budgets. And for an unknown brand, it's, that much more difficult to convince the customer, to buy your product.
You decided to go through your own website instead of
right.
like listing on Amazon.
That's right. That's how we started. So the first time we ever went live was on the 18th of February, 2018. Or was it the 12th of February, Madhok?
Yeah, it was It was actually so we actually received okay, so basically the first ever order actually came in from a lady named Malabika Dattarai on the 4th of Feb. And I remember like we hadn't even got our stock. So we just basically made the website live, done zero marketing, just put renders. Absolutely no idea how this lady found us, but she found us. She sniffed us out through Instagram or through the internet, and she placed an order. And I remember getting an email saying, "You have an order from Razor Pacing, a new order received on your store. 1,143 rupees have come into your bank account." I was like, "Oh my God, how are we going to fulfill this? Because we don't get stock for another 10 days." So that was 4th Feb. 14th of Feb, we received the actual products, the first batch from the manufacturers. And I think we probably dispatched around the 15th or 16th of Feb, the day after we received it.
And your manufacturer is like Delhi based or like?
We've got a few now. We've got 3 manufacturers, and we just started working with the 4th one. So 3 of them are Delhi NCR, and one of them is located in Himachal Pradesh.
And these are people who would be working for like say Himalaya and Unilever and these kind of companies, like doing packaging.
Yeah, I mean, they work with a variety of brands across small, medium, and larger brands. I mean, it's not that they work specifically for smaller brands or specifically for larger brands. I think it's they all at whatever scale they're at, they have it's a healthy mix, and I think whatever scale they're at, they have a certain minimum order quantity that they operate with. So as long as you can meet that, they won't have a problem working with you.
Okay, and you also would have like got a printer for the packaging material and all of that stuff.
So that was again done. Yeah, that's right. We again had. I mean, once we found the contract manufacturer, the good part is it's a kind of a one-stop shop. So once we were able to identify the manufacturer, he gave us good leads for the packaging. He gave us good leads for who would do the labels. Who would do this for us on a very small scale. And that's how and then once we were able to identify all the suppliers, then it was a one-stop shop. The contract manufacturer would source everything, and then we would pay the contract manufacturer.
So this was 2018 for you, like operating in this way. So by the time you did your fundraise, what were things like? And tell me about that first fundraise.
Right. So I think we started at that point. Madhok and I were still working our full-time jobs, even though the website had gone live, because we needed to be able to be doing some kind of traction before we both said, okay, we need to now fully jump on board.
Right. Plus, it would give you money to pump in.
Exactly, and also we did have personal expenses, and if we weren't working our usual jobs, where would the money come from? So we got that. We kickstarted that. After the website went live, then we literally had 2 jobs. We had our day jobs and we had our evening and night jobs, and that we worked on nights and weekends. And that kind of continued till I would say this summer of 2018. And that's when, because Madhok had that, was coming from that experience of startups, and he had interacted with so many people in the ecosystem. He said that, why don't we look at getting venture back? Why don't we look at pitching to investors, angels and VCs? And let's see, we've got this idea, we've got this hypothesis, maybe an investor will, kind of see the vision and would be interested in, being a part of the story. So that's what we did in the summer through some friends of ours at Sleepy Owl, the founders at Sleepy Owl, who had also gotten DSG on board as partners. They said that, we can put you guys in touch and you can take it from there. So we reached out to DSG. We actually did the entire investor run. We spoke to a few dozen investors, angels. It's not easy. Fundraising is not easy. It gets after the first round, I think it gets humbling and harder before it gets easier. So that's what I've been reading this book called The Messy Middle, I think, which is what we're in right now. But coming back, we.
So tell me about those pitch meetings Madhok? Like, what were the questions being asked, and how did you finally convince the people who backed you?
So I think the questions were being asked were, from what I saw, was mostly about our backgrounds. It seemed like the early investors wanted to bet on the jockey and not the horse. But then again, they also wanted to see some amount of product market fit. I think in their minds, everybody had some metrics, of certain traction that they wanted to see before, because it could just be, a run rate of doing, let's say, 1 crore in sales a year. So doing 7 to 8 lakh rupees, in sales a month. So there were all sorts of questions about the product, the branding, our go-to-market strategy, our differentiation, our niche, the size of the opportunity. I think they were mostly the typical, the sort of questions that we'd still see today. But fortunately for us, the first raise, and we've heard this across the board, is that the first raise tends to be easier than the raises thereafter, because on the first raise, you're basically betting on the hope, on the idea, right? Subsequent fundraisers are far more grueling, because they're like, you had hope, you had an idea, you took the money, what have you done with it? What's the return on capital employed? How have you scaled? What's the traction? Have you demonstrated product market fit? How are the unit economics? What are the fundamentals of the business? So it became significantly harder. But I think with DSG, they're also one of the most prominent consumer-based funds in the country. With Deepak and Chaitanya from DSG, at that point he was there, they immediately saw what we were trying to do, trying to make a plant-based hair gel and hair cream. They started using it, they started loving it, and they realized that there was an opportunity in this whole clean label, plant-based personal care ecosystem. I think they did their diligence both on us and the idea and the opportunity, and they took the punt. Like, I remember there was a series of meetings. We met them. I think we had calls in March and April. We had one meeting in May, and then we had one call in June where they turned us down, and that was quite disappointing, because we thought things were getting really hot.
This is 2018.
2018 June, and what we realized, and we didn't know it back then, but what we know now is that investors will make it look like they're right on the verge of offering you a term sheet, okay? And there's going to be a lot of mojo and a lot of excitement and a lot of like momentum being built up, and they're going to ask for things in a hurry and this and that, and then it slowly fizzles out, and then they so in June they turned us down. Now we're like, okay, fine, regardless, see, we were going to do this whether we got investors on board or not, right? And we knew it was a matter of time. The business was breaking even on a monthly basis, so we knew that we could keep doing this. But then I think it was July, or it was August now, when I think they'd been using the products for a while, and they called us back in for a meeting and said, how's the traction been? And we were like, the traction is great, because we've basically 2x our sales in the last 2-3 months. And it started showing those first signs of getting that healthy traction. And they said, okay, great. Deepak told us we'd love to do it. So, let's go ahead with the deal. And this was at the Oberoi Hotel in Gurgaon. And Bhasin and I were just very cool and calm about it. And we were like, yeah, okay, cool, nice, great. That's great to hear. And literally,
at least on the exterior, we were cool and calm.
Yeah. And then,
how much did you raise in that?
So it was a 3.5 crore raise, of which 3 crores came from DSG and 50 lakhs came from angel investors. But just to cap that experience, the story about the Oberoi. So they were nice enough. They walked us to the elevator. We shook hands, on the deal. And Bhasin and I waited for the elevator's doors to close. We're standing with our hands behind our back, very professional, standing totally straight like ramrods. As soon as the elevator door shut, we started jumping up and down and hugging each other and saying, yay! So it was super exciting. Yeah.
So that's when you both went in full time, took your jobs.
Yes, correct. And then Yeah, the money ended up coming into the bank in the end of December. So there was like basically a 5 month period within which they were doing due diligence. And at that time, we'd already, decided we were going to be doing this full time, and then put in our, Basin started, exiting from his, stock brokerage, and I put in my papers at the Bird Group, and yeah, and then we jumped into this in October.
So in end of 18, you were a one product company, right? The hairstyling product.
So that was the flagship product, but we actually went to market with 6 products: the hair gel, hair cream, the face wash, lip balm, shampoo, and body wash. And so the thought process behind that was that if somebody comes to the website but they're bald, we should make something else for them. Because if we're making
Okay.
safe products, there should be something for everyone. If you're a 12-year-old girl or a 40-year-old man or a 50-year-old
And
lady.
these were
Yeah.
gender specific products, or you had like unisex products?
So to date, we have all our products are genderless. They're just safe, effective personal care products, and they work for you whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're Asian or African, regardless of caste, color, gender. We're just making really effective products for human beings.
Got it. Okay. So tell me about that product journey from 6 products at the time of launch to today. Like, how many SKUs do you have now, and what is the range today?
So now we have 17 SKUs, where I think by the time this podcast goes live, we're launching 9 more SKUs. So in the next 2 weeks. So when we started with, like I said, the hair gel, hair cream, face wash, lip balm, shampoo, and body wash. And then we realized that, apart from just being in the hair and body category, we also wanted to go deeper in the face category and launch more face washes and face creams and, a different version of the lip balm. We also wanted to launch a fluoride-free toothpaste, a chemical-free plant-based cinnamon chamomile, really, really delicious toothpaste, made of, plants and botanicals. So we expanded into oral care, hair care, face care, and body care. And now we're launching a very, very science-backed, plant-based skincare range, high-performance skincare. So we've got serums, sunscreens, gels, that kind of stuff coming out.
Okay. So in 2018, you were doing like 5,000 units a month, you told me at some point. So what is it that
5 lakh rupees in sales a month.
5 lakh rupees in
Yeah,
sales a month?
yeah.
Okay. And so what is it that you do now?
Now we're almost getting to 2 crores a month in sales. And we're doing. Back then it was only our website, and then we had a very small footprint on Amazon. Now we're on our website. We're on Amazon, Flipkart, Nykaa, Myntra, and a few other boutique marketplaces.
Are you planning to go offline also, like modern trade and all?
Not immediately. I think there's enough headroom online. But yes, I think eventually, once things open up, and when offline makes sense for us as a brand, we could most certainly look at going offline, but not in the next, I'd say, year or two.
A lot of D2C founders have told me that offline is one of the best ways to market your brand, because people see it, walking down the aisle. But like that's not something that you think, like how do your customers discover you?
So majority of them actually, I mean, all of them have to discover us in 2 ways, either online or through word of mouth. And
Like online, how? Like, do you have like influencer marketing, or do you do paid campaigns?
we do Google, Facebook, Instagram marketing, Amazon marketing. We'll do, marketing on marketplaces like Nykaa. We reach out to influencers. We do online PR. We do online sampling. We try to, place ourselves in YouTube web series. We do anything and everything under the sun to try and get in front of the customer, because they live online. So we may as well also be relevant, and they can immediately click the call to action and place a transaction at the moment of truth itself. It's not like they have to go offline to a local store to pick up our product. If we were hypothetically selling like refrigerated juices or yogurts or something, then it would be something that we would have to majorly focus offline. So yeah.
So what works best for you in terms of giving you best bang for the buck? when it comes to acquiring customers?
Marketplaces, absolutely, because there's so much footfall there. It's the equivalent of basically opening up a store in a great mall. You know the footfall is going to come, so you may as well have a small store there. In the same way with Amazon, Nykaa, there are with Amazon there are people browsing. With Nykaa there are people with high intent for beauty and personal care. So we have to be present them there for them to discover us.
Hmm. Okay. And how is work split between the two of you? Like, who does what?
So Bhasin looks after more of the build, and I look after the sell. So Bhasin will look after managing the finances, procurement and purchasing, manufacturing and placing purchase orders, receiving goods, logistics and dispatch, and so forth. I try to look after more partnerships, alliances, technology, marketing, PR. And then we collectively work on activities like fundraising, recruiting, new product development. So there are some common and there are some different roles.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So what do you think will be the next 5 years like for you? What's your roadmap? Like, what do you think, say by 2025, 26, where do you think you'll be at? I mean, both of you could answer this individually.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Vasim, you want to take a jab?
Yeah, sure. 5 years from now, I mean, it's difficult to know where we'll be 1 year from now, but
By when do you think you'll cross 100 CR annual turnover mark?
I think our target is in the next 2.5 to 3 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Yeah. So that's when we're looking to cross 100 crores. And then I feel once we're able to do that, then, it would mean that we've scaled up to a very good level. And then we can use that existing base to really catapult into 200, 300, 400, 500 crores. And, we're cognizant of our peers. We can see other, peers in our ecosystem who have achieved, these numbers and this kind of scale. And we understand that just even as far as online is concerned, we've got a lot of headroom. And that's another reason why we're, the offline space as of now is not under consideration, because we'd rather stay more focused and not spread ourselves too thin, and including our resources.
So who are your competitors? I mean, someone like say Bombay Shaving Club would not really be a competitor, right? I mean, they don't have the same value proposition.
No, and I think also Bombay Shaving Company is men's only. So that's definitely, one major differentiator. And men's care products are usually focused more on efficacy and, being rough and tough and, not really a focus on what is safe, what is plant-based, what is gentle on your skin and hair. It's more about the efficacy aspect of it. And that's another reason, that's another kind of positioning and opportunity that we found, that being unisex enables us to even market to men. More yes, we are effective, but we're also gentle and good for your hair and your skin and everything else. So as far as competitors in the market are concerned, I don't know if I want to, if we want to call them competitors, but I would say that, friends who we have in the ecosystem and, brands that we are inspired by in the ecosystem who are, in the personal care space specifically are, there's Mama, Plum,
Body Shop,
Dot & Key, Body Shop. I'm talking about specifically the Indian startups, but who we like to imagine, or we, are inspired by the most, and find that, that it's, the kind of same message but different voices is probably the Body Shop. So we're looking to build out our business very similar, not similar, but inspired by kind of same value system like the Body Shop. So we love how they built out the brand, and that's how we're also looking to build it out. But yeah, I would say in 2 years, 2.5 to 3 years, we're looking at being at 100 crores. And after that is anybody's guess.
Okay, got it. Okay. So for the folks who are listening to this show, what's your pitch to them so that they actually go to the Arata website and buy something?
So if you're looking for a truly premium, an incredible, highly differentiated, a very, very tasteful, refined, effective, plant-based, chemical-free, non-toxic, vegan, cruelty-free, conscious, sustainable brand, visit arata.in and use Arata Loves You, ARATA LOVESYOU at checkout to get a friends and family discount.
And how much is that discount?
It's 25%. So it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that is massive.
Yeah, and since Madhok has listed out every single one of the selling points, I would just say whatever he said.
This was The Spotlight, presented by The Podium. To listen to more such interesting conversations, log on to thepodium.in.